Hi, I'm Allie. Join me as I show you how to do these dropping quad bow earrings. They're a great statement, and I show you how to go through and kind of link shapes together, change the direction, and go back through and reinforce. So make sure to stay tuned. If you need any materials, go ahead and look below the video. In the description there, you'll get a link to get back to our website where you can gather everything up. Get ready, and let's get started. So this design is very simple. We are going to be using some QuadBow beads, some IrisDuo beads, some 4mm bicones here, as well as 11/0s, 15/0s, and then just a couple 8/0s at the top. I want to show you how to do the top using a jump ring rather than having to use a wire guard. There's a number of different ways to do it. And really the reason that we are going to be doing this is because I want to show you the different ways that you can position some of the beads and how you're getting from one side to the other. So it's kind of a very much a learning process. The first thing I'm going to do is pick up a bead that's not part of my project here, and I'm going to add it to the bottom of my thread, which I'm using size 8 dragon thread because I want this kind of stiff. I don't want it flopping all around. And I have on a size 11 needle with it and just that one stop bead on. We're going to begin at the top of the earring and then kind of work our way down, coming back up towards the top as well. I have 11/0s in the gold color, as well as some 15/0s in gold also. 4mm bicones, 4 of my quad bows per project, and then 2 of my IrisDuo beads. You can change out a lot of these as you're working with them, and then 2 of the little rondelles here in the 2mm bead. All right, so we're starting at the top, and we are going to go into the first hole of our quad bow bead. So we're going to go from the outside towards the inside of the first hole. Make sure as you're looking through them before you start that all your quad bow holes are taken care of and open. And we're going to go from that first one from the inside towards the outside. And when we get towards the middle here, we're going to pick up one of our 4mm beads. We're then going to go over to the next one of the quad bows here and go through that. And when I'm on the outer edge here, I want to decorate the outside of the quad bow so you don't see a lot of thread. Grab 2 11/0 beads and go down through hole number 2. When you go through hole number 2 here, we're going to add our next quad bow beads. And you can see here how those kind of sit nestled inside. And I want them to sit inside, and this is going to kind of flare out a little bit. We're going to grab our quad bows from the first or the outer edge of the macaroni noodle towards the center. We're going to add 1 11/0. And we're going to add our second one of our quad bow beads going from the interior towards the exterior, of the curve. Going to the opposite side of the quad bows, go through hole number 2 of that quad bow bead and pull that in nice and tight. And see how they just nest right inside of there? I'm going to repeat my thread line here, adding the 11/0 beads and going back up to the top. And we're going to go back through the thread lines. We're going to be doing this a lot, actually. When I'm going through the thread lines here, I'm going to add those 2 beads and go through the 2 beads that we put on the side. And then we're going to drop down through the beads that we just added. And we're going to come out through the opposite side. Now, again, you can drop down in some other places as you're working on this. I just want to keep it symmetrical, and I like that extra thread line going through. So that's going to be your first introduction to that outer wave. We're going to go down to the third hole of the outer quad bow bead. Quad bow has 4 holes. And then we're going to come into the second hole of the inner quad bow beads, and we are going to add our IrisDuo. The IrisDuo beads, if you've never used them, have one side that's a little flat and one side that is a little bit more rounded. We're going to make sure that the rounded side goes up for both of them. It doesn't really matter front or back which way the rounded side goes, but we want to make sure that it's facing the same way. On the exterior, just like we did before, and I'm going to pull the camera in just a little bit closer here, we're going to grab those 2 11/0 beads, and we're going to go from, again, that second hole of the outer quad bow to the third hole of the exterior quad bow and the second hole of the interior quad bow. There will be just the tiniest little bit of space in the interior here. Don't worry about that. We'll add a bead in when we get to the end. Grab another 11/0, first hole of the IrisDuo bead, a second 11/0, and we're going to take our thread and needle and go back through the other side. going through both of those beads and coming out the opposite side. Just like we did previously, we're going to round it out again. Going and adding 2 beads, going back through those beads. When you get to the center of the quad bow beads, it's the easiest usually to kind of bring your needle out there. Kind of twist it as you're working with it, bend it back a little bit. Go back through all of those beads. Go down here along the side through those 2 beads, just like we did previously. Again, kind of almost thinking like a right angle weave pattern where you're going back through the entire thing that you just did. Here is where we're going to change, then going over and through to the opposite side and back up. Now we have one more hole on the exterior of that quad bow. Just like we've been doing, grab your 2 seed beads and go down the last hole of the quad bow from the outer one, and we're going into the 3rd hole on the inner quad bow. Here on the interior, we're going to grab our 2mm rondelles. You can also use 2mm rounds there. We're going to go from the 1st hole there of that IrisDuo to the outer 2nd hole. So we're going from the 3rd hole of the quad bow to the 2nd hole of the IrisDuo. Grab another one of your crystals and go out the opposite side. Make sure when you're going out, you're not going out the last hole there, you're going out the 3rd hole of the interior one. Here again, we're going to loop around, adding 2 beads and going back through all of those traceable steps and out towards the exterior. Again, kind of bringing it out after the IrisDuo, if you need to, bringing it out after the seed beads, then hitting up those quad bow beads to bring that back through. And getting those lined up, kind of wiggling your needle through. Coming out that exterior line, going back through those 2 seed beads along the exterior line, and then in towards the seed bead here, through the crystals, over to the other side. And then when you get to the other side, we have 1 hole left of our quad bow beads. And that 1 hole that we have left of the quad bow beads, to get down to it, we're going to repeat the same thing that we did on the exterior of the top here. Adding 2 11-0 seed beads, then going down to that last hole and out. When we're here at the bottom, we're going to add a little kind of swag. So the swag is going to be 1 of our 11-0s, and then we're going to do 3 of our bicones. 1, 2, and 3. That's our first piece of our swag. Our second piece of our swag, which is going to come out that same hole, is going to be some 15s just so it sits a little bit nicer, and then some lower beads changing the location, or changing the direction rather, of the IrisDuo beads. After those 3 4mm beads, I want you to grab 1 more 11-0 seed bead and out the exterior. Once I come out this exterior hole, I'm going to add 2 more of my 11-0 seed beads along the side. Then I'm going to come back down and we're going to exit again. After you spin your thread through and go out the side here, I just wanted to show you an alternative. So if you don't want to come back out through the quad bow and you want something to be a little bit more loopy hanging down, you can add another row of beads here just for a completely different look down from the exterior of the seed beads coming out through the 11-0s on the side. What we're going to do is we're going to hop onto the interior. So I'm going to go through that last bead of the quad bow. Bring my thread and needle down towards the bottom of that quad bow there. And we're going to add 1, 2, and 3, and 4 of our 15-0s. So these are the smaller side. Then we're going to add 1 of our 2mm bead, another one of the 15s. We're going to make sure that our IrisDuo sits correctly, and we're going to go down through the first hole on the left of the IrisDuo with it facing up. Here at the bottom, you're going to do a 15, a crystal, and a 15, and we're going to go back up through the IrisDuo. Now, the nice thing with this is you can change this to whatever you want. You could do a drop crystal, you can make it longer, you can add another row of the quad bow beads. When I was working on this, one of my beading friends, Mary Stewart, said, "Oh, I think you should add another quad bow." And I was like, "Oh, I'll say that during the recording and give that suggestion. You can make them even longer or drop another thing down towards the exterior here, grabbing onto the lower one." Lots of alternatives that you can do. I like to give ideas through the tutorials and then have you make it your own. From here, I'm going to go over through the quad bow, through that bottom hole as well, And then once I'm out through the quad bow, and that lower hole here, those beads are going to sit down. Just want to make sure when I'm doing this that my IrisDuo bead, just do a double check that it's sitting correctly on the exterior there, that both are facing the same row, and that I don't have a lot of extra beads here. From here, I'm going to go up through those 2 seed beads along the outer edge. I'm going to sneak my thread and needle then through the last hole of the quad bow that sits towards the exterior. Bring that out. You can certainly go around the edge with seed beads if you want to. I'm going to go in and add or go through 2 seed beads of my 11-0s. I'm going to pick up another 11-0 and add it in the middle there. Go through the next 2 seed beads. Go through the next 2 seed beads. So that 11-0 is just kind of hanging in the middle there. See how it just kind of fills in that space? And then here at the top, we're going to add some more 11-0s, and we're going to do a little right angle weave with some 8-0 seed beads. Now, the reason I'm using the 8-0 seed beads is because I want that to be able to act almost as my wire guard. I don't like to put thread and needle directly through a jump ring because it can open up. So I'm going to use the 8-0 seed beads, which have a big enough hole, and I'm going to use 4 of those to create this right angle weave unit here. So along the side here, you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seed beads already. And then after that, we're going to add 2 more of our 11-0 seed beads. We're going to pick up 1, 2, 3, and 4 of our 8-0 seed beads. Take your thread and needle back through bead number 1 of that grouping of 4 8-0s toward bead number 2. We're going to circle around and reinforce, going through this one more time, back through all of those 8-0 seed beads, creating that loop. As you do it, make sure you don't see any extra thread showing, and you're going to come out back through bead number 1. Once you come out through bead number 1 there, we are going to add 1 and 2 11-0 seed beads. Skip over that stop bead, go through beads 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the exterior side here. And then as we do so, you're going to pick up 1 more 11-0 and go through the last 2 11-0 seed beads. From here, the only thing we need to do now is get rid of this extra thread. And to get rid of the extra thread, I'm going to sneak my thread back through that quad bow bead, through the interior, up along the side, pull that towards the back, and tie off my thread end right along the back of the design. You can then burn it and you're not going to see it at all. Post doing that, we're going to grab our jump ring. Now this jump ring, I don't like to have jump rings that are lower than like a 21 gauge for this purpose. You're going to find your opening here of your jump ring, bend it open, put it through that last loop of your 8-0. You can also do this ahead of time just to make sure that that 8-0 doesn't have too much of a coating that it doesn't work. Lay that down, open up your ear wire, pulling to the side, place it on, and after I tie off my thread, your earring of your quad bow leaf drop is all finished. Thanks so much for joining me to do these dropping quad bow earrings. They're really fun to do these stacked one inside of another, play around with the shapes, play around with the drops, and really that statement of those bold check multi-hold shapes. Remember, if you need any of the quad bow beads, crystals, any of the IrisDuos, go ahead and look below the video and hit the show more button near the description. That'll get you links back to our website. Also, if you haven't yet, hit that little subscribe button because you don't want us to miss anything here at Potomac Beads. We would love to see all of you watching all the videos and subscribing. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for more inspirational designs.